Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. In this session, I'm going to talk about the second poetry of the second unit of English 1 DGBC syllabus, which is Calm and Cold. Okay, this one was written by Ogden Nash, an American writer. And before getting into the session, kindly subscribe the channel and get the further updates about the upcoming lectures. This poetry, Calm and Cold, by Ogden Nash. Ogden Nash was born in the year 1902 and he studied in the Harvard College, but he didn't complete his study in this college. He dropped out after 1 year attending the college. And see, he was also working as a school teacher before becoming a copywriter. And in the year of 1925, he took up a job in the marketing departments of publishing house. When he was working in the publishing house, he published a poetry collection in the name Hard Lines, and this work became very popular in the year of 1931, and in the first year itself, this collection had gone through about 7 printings, so it became very popular. And after that, he resigned his job from the publishing house and started working for New Yorker in the year of 1932. There he was working for a few few years. After that he decided to be a full-time poet. Since his poetries are becoming popular, he wanted to spend his most of his time writing poetry. Of course, his poetries were intentionally showing anti-establishment, especially that was echoed by many Americans, particularly during the Depression period. As a keen observer, Ogden in the American social life, he frequently mocked the religious, moralizing, and conservative politicians. His work is often compared with the other satirists of his time, including Dorothy Parker, Robert Bentley, and H.L. Mencken. So, with these writers, his works were compared. And not only that, Ogden was frequently appeared on radio and televisions. There, he earned a huge number of audiences for his readings and lectures. He also authored of 3 screenplays for MGM and with S.J. Perelman. The work One Touch of Venus, that one was written in the year of 1943. And in the year of 1950, Nash focused on writing poems for children, including collections of Girls Are Silly. Okay, these are a few important information about the poet. In the year of 1971, Nash was passed away. Okay, that's it about the poet Ogden Nash. Now let me get into the poetry, Calm and Cold. This poetry was written as a conversation between the narrator and a doctor. The narrator is the patient, and he was, having a disputation with his doctor. During this dispute, the patient, I mean the narrator who took the upper hand, there, how he opens his, the poetry, the poet, how he opens the poetry, the patient who shouts at the doctor. The doctor came for the treatment to treat the patient. The patient was suffering from a severe cold. So there, the patient shouts at the doctor. So the patient is the narrator, right? So the poetry gets opened like the patient says the doctor, "Go hang yourself, you old MD. Go hang yourself, you old MD. You shall not sneer at me. Pick up your hat and stethoscope. Go wash your mouth with laundry soap. I contemplate a joy exquisite. I'm not paying you for your visit. I didn't call you to be told my melody is calm and cold." So the poem goes like a satire, like he shouts at the doctor. Like we have seen, some of the doctors who come to us, they know that what is our actual problem, but they won't simply complete the treatment instantly. They ask us to go with a lot of what is that checkups, After that, he'll come to say that this is your actual problem, right? So there, he says to the doctor, take your belongings, okay, and go and wash your mouth with your laundry soap. I know what is my problem, right? I know what is my, it's just a cold. But after having done these many, checkups, finally you're giving the same result. That is, the problem is cold, right? So that's why, he is shouting at the doctor and saying that I won't pay for your visit because I didn't call you to be told my malady is a common cold, right? So she said he won't give the fee for the doctor's visit and shouts at his doctor saying that wash your mouth and leave the place. In the second stanza, he lists out a few symptoms of the person who is suffering from cold. He says in the second stanza, like by pounding brow and swollen lip, right? During the cold season, I mean, this is what the symptoms like. The brow will be pounding and the lip will be swollen, right? By fevers hot, definitely, and scaly grape. Okay, we feel like the scally will be very grip and will get what is that, uh, fevers, right? And by those two red redundant eyes will become very red, and they will weep like woeful April skies. So there the tears will come out from the eyes, like during the April month, how the skies pose its the sky's nature during the April month, and says that by racking snuffle, snort, sniff, definitely people who are suffering from a cold, they'll have all these problems, right? And by handkerchief after handkerchief, many times we have seen people who are suffering from a cold, they used to have two three handkerchief. Okay, if one is gone, they'll take another. If one become too much of it, they'll take another, the other handkerchief, like that, by handkerchief and after handkerchief. This cold you wave away as not, it's nothing, it's just a cold. Is the damnedest cold man ever caught? He's asking, is the damnedest cold man ever caught? Of course, usually man will get this. Okay, just a cold, right? So for which I don't want these many diagnoses, these many checkups. So the symptoms which we are facing, right, with that itself we can easily say that this is my problem, because those symptoms will say that because of this only these symptoms are coming, right? But some doctors, they used to take a lot of tests, a lot of diagnosis. After the test, they'll come and say this is your problem. That beginning itself we know, okay, for which we don't have to meet the doctor, we don't need to know so many tests, so many checkups. In the second stanza, he calls the doctor as a scientific fossil, okay. He says, give your ear, you scientific fossil, listen my words. Here is the genuine cold, colossal, the cold of which researchers dream, the perfect cold, the cold supreme. This honored system humbly holds the super cold to end all colds. The cold crusading for democracy, the Fahrer of the streptocracy. In this stanza, he says that, see, you scientific fossil, like, here is the genuine cold. It's a cold, right? Okay, the cold of which researchers dream, whereas the researchers, they do a lot of work, they contemplate, they take too much of time to finalize what is the problem, right? So, and he says, uh, it's a perfect cold, the cold supreme. That this honor system humbly holds the super cold end all colds. See, when the cold comes, which controls everything, right? The cold, which crusading for democracy. So the poet satirically refers to the cold as a figure of streptocracy. Okay, the bacteria which had invaded a system were working tirelessly. Okay, and so if previously what he says is doctor as a scientific fossil who missed the opportunity to treat a cold so severe when in fact it could have been a perfect research subject. So now he refers satirically with the cold as the Fahrer of streptocracy. And in the next stanza, he goes on telling that a basely swam within my portals, such as were never conceived by mortal, but bred by scientist wise and hoary, in some Olympic laboratory. Bacteria as large as mice, with feet of fire and heads of ice, who never interrupt for slumber their stamping elephantine rumba. So in this stanza, he says that people who are suffering from cold, they feel like a swarm will, wandering inside their portals, nose, head, like that. So mostly, uh, which are being bred by scientists, wise and hoary. Okay, and he says the bacteria is very large as mice, where people who are suffering from the cold, they feel like they are standing on a fire, as well as they've got eyes on their head. Okay, unlike the bacteria which had conquered the system, were working tirelessly, as though they were performing an like an elephantine rumba, dance routine on his body. So the last stanza, he says again, a common cold, gadzooks, forsooth. Oh, yes, and Lincoln was jostled by Booth. Don John was budding gallant, and Shakespeare's play show signs of talent. The Arctic winter is fairly coolish, and your diagnosis fairly foolish. Oh, what a derision history holds for the man who belittled the cold of coals. So, in this stanza, he purposely ridicules the established facts to prove that his doctor was a fool. And he says, he points out Abraham Lincoln's assassination by John Wilkes Booth as a jostle, and calls the Spanish literary character Don Juan as a budding gallant. And later he says Shakespeare's brilliant plays as ones which shows signs of talent. And again, he classifies the brutal Arctic winter as a fairly coolish. So, keeping in line with this satirical tone, he says that his doctor's diagnosis is fairly foolish. Yes, though it's a poem, the poet who satirically attacks doctors, right? So, with this, the poetry ends. Thanks for listening my lecture, and do subscribe the channel.